Hi guys, Andre Harrison back at it once again with a brand new video for you, and welcome to another episode of Dre Vlogs. And it turns out last night Sky Sports kind of got everybody talking because they released this statement on their main Twitter account saying that, yeah, it's public knowledge that Mercedes are making a play for Valtteri Bottas to replace Nico Rosberg at Mercedes, and then the same account within a minute put up another tweet saying that Williams are not going to budge on this one. So it looks like what we know is that Mercs think that Bottas is their option to take over Rosberg's seat in 2017, and Williams don't really want to budge on that because they need an experienced guy in their seat to go alongside Lewis Hamilton. So I thought, wait, the more I talk about this, the more interesting thoughts I've got to say on the whole matter. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this video blog where I now basically talk about all, in my opinion, the potential guys that could end up in that seat. Let's make a video blog out of this. So, without further ado, here's Dre's opinions on all of the potential candidates for the Mercedes seat and what I think. Enjoy! Okay, so let's talk about the bookies' favourite first of all, Valtteri Bottas. That's the funny thing about it, was that he was second favourite for a long time, but now with the more of the news swirling around with Bottas, he's become bookies' favourite. He's around the 4 to 6 sort of market right now, and it's interesting because there's been a lot of people that have poo-pooed this move, and I don't quite see why. I think Bottas has proven in his career already that if you give him a really good car, he's a very, very good performer. I mean, look at Williams at 2014. They had legitimately the second best car in the field for a lot of that season, and Bottas had 6 podium finishes that year. Proven top-tier level speed, very solid qualifier as well. And in a season where Daniel Ricciardo took pretty much all the credit for 2014, Valtteri Bottas was right up there as well as a potential driver of the year candidate, given not only Williams' vast improvement as a team, but also Bottas' justification for a top-tier seat, given how fast he was at the time. Now, obviously, he's kind of faded a little bit since then, but that's not really down to him. It's probably also down to the fact the team's gotten a lot worse. Not to mention, Felipe Massa has been a little bit more competitive than we probably gave him credit for at Williams since he joined in 2014 as well. But I think Bottas is probably the number one candidate out there in terms of common sense. Again, he's got proven top-tier level speed. He's already proven that he can handle a good car, so there's less trepidation about going for him over, say, someone like Nico Hülkenberg, for instance. And he's just an overall solid guy, and that's what Mercedes probably need. He's no-nonsense. He's probably not going to ruffle any feathers. He'll win the occasional race, and I think Mercs are just going to want to look for another guy that can put up 300 points and win the Constructors. That was the beauty of Nico Rosberg in that sense, where sure, he wasn't necessarily going to be a title threat every single time, but as long as Mercs can have a guy that can put up 300, that's probably more than enough anyway. So I get the Bottas thing. I can see also why Williams want to keep him real bad, because like I said, they have Lance Stroll in the second seat and they're going to want an experienced guy. And we'll get to the issue with that in a minute, because I think Mercs have got a plan B here, and the plan B probably isn't great for Williams because they're an established team and they're probably not going to want to roll with 2 young drivers. But with Paddy Lowe potentially coming in, maybe to compensate for the fact that they're going to take their star driver, maybe it could work. That's probably the reason why Bottas is the bookies' favourite right now. And I think it'll be a very solid hire for Mercedes. Maybe not the most exciting one on paper, but do you think Mercedes really want to be exciting again after all these years of Rosberg and Hamilton ruffling each other's feathers for the last 4 years? Probably not. So, for me, Bottas probably seems like the ideal guy, but there's other options too, so let's break some of those down. So, the other guy that's kind of been batting around, like, one of the bookies' favourites has been Pascal Wehrlein. He was the favourite right from the start. He's drifted out a little bit more. He's now more around the 11 to 10 sort of range. Pascal Wehrlein seemed to be like the ideal candidate because he technically speaking right now he's a free agent. He's not confirmed on the grid for 2016, and as soon as this got announced about Rosberg, it was like, oh, Wehrlein for the Mercedes seat because Ocon was already confirmed at Force India at this point. And as we found out over the last couple of weeks, that really doesn't mean much because a team will most likely have another team buy out their contract if the price makes sense. Pascal Wehrlein, see, I think his price is going to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. And the reason why that is because the perception that Mercedes are giving off right now is one of, we can't trust him. And the whole idea of Bottas potentially going to Mercedes and Williams get Paddy Lowe, Pascal Wehrlein and cash to compensate, it blatantly comes across like Mercedes are not ready to put Pascal Wehrlein in the car. And I don't know why that is. I don't really see why. Pascal Wehrlein is more experienced. He scored a point for Man of this year. He had a very, very good first season in Formula 1 by any measure. And I don't know, maybe Mercs have seen the data. There's a rumour going around that apparently Wehrlein's got an attitude problem, that he's difficult to work with. I don't know. That's an alleged statement right there, but I've not seen any real proof of that. So, again, read into that what you will. Apparently, Force India had the choice of Ocon or Wehrlein, and they chose Ocon. Because Wehrlein's tested for Force India before, so they already know what Wehrlein is like. So maybe that was an off-putting thing. The press have probably put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5. I'm not sure on that one. But, like, Wehrlein has had a very good season, but he reminds me a lot of Daniil Kvyat, where Red Bull kind of pretended like the crash at Russia was the reason to swap him from teams, when the real reason was probably because they just wanted to get Verstappen in a top-tier seat as soon as possible. It might be the same thing here, or it might be an opposite to that, where they like Wehrlein, but they don't like him that much, and they probably like Ocon a little bit more. Because they were willing to put Ocon in the 4th best team in the field from last year, and put Ocon in a very, very good seat after just, 8 career races. And Ocon, he had Brazil, but I don't think he was all that impressive. Wehrlein, again, it's hard to say how good he really is when he did this first season in a manner, which was, on paper, the worst car in the field this year. Sure, a much more competitive manner team compared to last year, but still one where they were batting around 10 to 11 on the grid in terms of overall ability. If you're Mercs, like, the sexy pick is to go young, stick a 21-year-old Wehrlein in the seat, a guy that's won the DTM title, that's known to the German press and the German media, and roll with it. It does make sense on paper, but overall, I'm starting to think if you can get Bottas, you get Bottas. And, like I said, the whole perceived action of Bottas being seemingly the #1 target just kind of screams out to me, we don't trust him. We don't trust him with that kind of top-tier seat. Sticking Wehrlein in a Williams would probably make a lot more sense in the long run anyway. I don't think Hamilton's going to be around forever, and putting him in a Williams seat would make sense. The problem is that Williams are going to have 2 very, very inexperienced drivers. One being 21 with only 20 races of experience, and the other one being a complete rookie that's coming off a European title, but he's still only, 18, 19 years old, in Lance Stroll. So Wehrlein is interesting. He's a bit of he's like the wild card in this scenario, where we don't really know how good he is, but could get that seat in the future, or could get it now, depending on how things play out. He seems like that's the Mercedes get-out-of-jail-free card as opposed to a #1 option. But, again, we'll see. So, Fernando Alonso is one that's also come up an awful lot. And it's interesting because there's history there. Obviously, Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton were teammates back in 2007, and we all know how well that turned out.
But he's definitely putting the harder tyres on. There's Lewis Hamilton queuing up behind him. And have they raised the lollipop to let Alonso out? Yep, they want him out of there. Now Alonso's not getting on with it. Only 1:40 to go. Is he blocking Hamilton here? Is that a bit of a tactic within the...
Fernando Alonso's kind of being stupidly loyal to McLaren here, because if I knew that was on the table, I would have do everything in my power to get out of that contract and see if I can get that seat, because we've all seen it over the last decade. Fernando Alonso is desperate for that third world title and to really join that true upper pantheon of elite drivers by having 3 world championships, whereas he's only got the 2. I don't think Mercedes want to go there with another big ego guy like Fernando Alonso. It's a known fact that I think one of Mercedes' highest ranking CEOs has come out and said that he would veto any move for Fernando Alonso, mostly because of what happened in Hungary 2007, where he intentionally held up Lewis Hamilton in the pits so that it screwed Hamilton out of a chance of pole position. Basically, Alonso sabotaging his own team, and that's something you can't really afford to happen, because how good is a driver you can't trust? And that's something that, Lewis Hamilton's already got enough controversy for over the last few years, because twice he's ignored team orders while at Mercedes. So are they really going to have another situation where they have another big ego guy like Fernando Alonso in their camp after, again, 3 years of Nico Rosberg and and all the drama that they cause between each other, mostly on Hamilton's side? But is that something they're going to want to have again? Probably not. Fernando Alonso is probably the best driver out there that's actively really available here, but McLaren, with the money they've got from Honda, with the money they have in general, they would never let their contract get bought out by Fernando Alonso. It would put the team in a real pickle as well, because Jenson Button, they'd probably have to call him back out of retirement, which would be really awkward, and that's probably something that McLaren don't really want to do. I think they'd much rather let Button drift out into the sunset. And it's easy to remember as well, Jenson Button thoroughly got his ass kicked by Fernando Alonso at McLaren this year. Like, Button is probably no longer even in that decent second tier of drivers now. Fernando Alonso beat him pretty much pillar to post this season. And Alonso is probably still a top tier guy, even if we haven't had the evidence to really prove it, given the cars he's been in since 2013. But Button is probably finished as a decent driver anyway. So when you put all that together, I don't think Alonso's going to make the move. He's about 16-1 right now, and that's probably for good reason. But the whole concept is intriguing. I mean, that could probably be the best team you could put together, but at the same time also probably the most volatile. So let's probably call that one a wash. I've heard people mention Sebastian Vettel's name as well as a potential guy, and short answer, probably not this year. Sebastian's already come out and said that he's not leaving Ferrari this year, so that one pretty much got shot down pretty quickly. He's not going to leave Ferrari just yet. But they did delay talks of a contract extension. Like, Vettel is in no hurry to re-sign with Ferrari for another 2 years. And it took Fernando Alonso 5 years to realise that, Ferrari's not in the position to win championships. We're only at year 3 with Sebastian right now, and he probably still thinks Ferrari's got a chance of winning a title. Whether you believe that to be a valid reason ultimately is down to you. I don't think it is. I don't think Ferrari's got the tools for it anytime soon. Despite their great 2014 improvement, James Allison has gone. They haven't really got anybody in there with that level of top-tier expertise. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Ferrari. But, I mean, what Mercedes could do is they could sign someone on a 1-year deal and then wait for 2017 with the driver market to open up a little bit more, because Daniel Ricciardo will be a free agent, Max Verstappen will be a free agent, Sebastian Vettel and Fernando Alonso would also be free agents, and that could ultimately rapidly change the driver market. So Vettel, I wouldn't say he's a contender this year. I think being a contender next year makes a lot more sense. Vettel is still probably, at worst, the second best driver on the planet in terms of pound-for-pound rankings. So he's naturally going to be very appealing to a team. It's just going to be a matter of which one, and if the timing's right, and of whether Vettel wants to stick it out for a little bit longer with Maranello. We'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't put Vettel down as a real contender. There's one more guy I really wanted to talk about here, and that's Carlos Sainz, and that's like the fan favorite pick from what I'm seeing. Like, the more I see it, the more I'm hearing Carlos Sainz's name come up, and it does make a lot of sense because Carlos Sainz is a guy that, you know, really had an excellent season at Toro Rosso. Spoiler alert, he's going to be in my top 5 drivers of the year countdown coming up next week. But Carlos Sainz had a tremendous season at Toro Rosso this year. A car that really can't develop. It's not had a particularly good time with it, but Carlos has been able to drag many a brilliant result out of that car. He's around the 28-1 mark right now, and I think the reason why that is he's such an outside choice is because right now Red Bull have got him under lock and key. They have the perfect situation in their team right now. They have Daniel Ricciardo, who's a top 3 driver in the planet on the planet right now, an elite top tier guy, fan favorite. Everybody loves Ricciardo pretty much. That's the ideal number 1 guy. You have Max Verstappen, who is captivating, entertaining. He's inspiring a new generation of fans, and he's still only 19 years old. Like, if he's not a world champion, he's most definitely a future world champion. So that's one thing. And then on top of that, they have Carlos Sainz in their back pocket. So if anybody leaves and moves on, they can just plug Carlos Sainz back in. Because Kvyat, as we all know, is now damaged goods. So if you're Red Bull, why would you potentially let a driver of his caliber go to Mercedes? Like, if Merckx wins a title next year, or if Carlos Sainz, which wouldn't be inconceivable given what we've seen with Nico Rosberg this year, if Carlos Sainz did the unthinkable and won a world title next year, how stupid would Red Bull look? We let Carlos Sainz go to Merckx. Oh, he's won a world title with Merckx. Whoopsie, how bad. See what I'm getting at here? It wouldn't be a good look at all. But I don't think Red Bull will let him go. I think he's too valuable an asset. I think this is what the driver market is now when it comes to young drivers. It's not about putting them in seats. It's about holding on to them so that other teams don't test them out. I know people have had many an argument with me about this, saying, "Oh, why don't they put this young guy in a seat?" Because we get it, young guys are the sexy picks, and we want everybody to be a Max Verstappen. We want everybody to be a Marc Marquez. Where they're young, they get put in a top tier seat straight away, and then they ended up driving the nuts off a damn thing. I get it. It's appealing, it's sexy, it inspires fans, and because of Max and Lance Stroll, we want to see it happen with more guys. But I'm not sure if Merckx are going to want to take that kind of chance, especially when they have literally the best seat in the history of motorsport up for grabs. I would love to see Carlos Sainz in that seat. He's my personal number 1 choice. I'd love to see him in a good car where we can really see how good he is, because he's worked so hard in a situation where he's had to deal with Max Verstappen and a car that isn't particularly good, and he's come out of it better for it. So why not give Carlos Sainz that kind of chance? But I think Red Bull isn't going to let him go. And Carlos Sainz has got the improvement of Fernando Alonso in his back corner, and that's a pretty valuable thing. So that's me on pretty much all of the major title contenders for that Mercedes seat. Let me know what you guys think. If there's any other names out there you'd want to see. I've heard people mention Felix Rosenqvist as well as one guy that outside of Merckx that could do it. Paul di Resta, all sorts. So let me know. Bounce some opinions of each other in the comments. I'd love to hear it. But until next time, I'm Andre Harrison. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Sayonara.